The first thinking I had was it had to sound different. It had to be different. It had to feel different. Because there's a couple of stuff on the market which is pretty well known, and people like it, and people like to use it because when there's some sort of a Marshall or whatever, a Fender amplifier on the screen, you just feel at home and you just start playing. But for me, it always sounded a bit one-dimensional, and the reason why I started different was what exactly is that? Where does this one-dimensional sound come from? And I was investigating a couple of circuits, and I ended up with the goal in mind to build a circuit that is some kind of generic. It doesn't have a certain direction. You can do everything with it. And that was the preamp section in the Vandal, where you can dial in 3 different tones: the British, the classic, and the modern high gain, which are actually similar circuits, but you stack one on the other, as in a real amplifier. And I think that a couple of manufacturers don't do that actually.
Correct.
They take the input signal and they take the output signal from an actual amplifier, and they said, okay, that's the input-output curve, and they just do a couple of expressions, of math expressions, and they end up with that response curve. But that's not the whole deal.
You can tell when you're actually playing it, it actually reacts like a tube amp does. And I've always played tube amps, and it has a specific touch and compression and feel when you're playing it, and Vandal gives me that exact same feel.
It has feedback, and that's important. People tend to think that tube amps are all about distortion, saturation, and that stuff. Of course they are,
right.
But they are also about internal feedback. When you wire up a tube amp, you don't have as much parts as you would have in a solid-state amplifier, but these few parts definitely count, and there's interaction and feedback all over the place. And I tend to say that electrons, they travel all directions. Mm-hmm. They don't travel from front to back, as one would normally think. They go anywhere,
right,
and everywhere. So it's important to emulate all these directions, and to provoke actually feedback from the back to the front and sideways, and to always include other stages, such as the power supply, which is very important.
Absolutely.
That's why the Vandal amp can actually sag, which isn't just volume compression.
Exactly.
It just, when it goes down, it actually distorts more, because the virtual power supply takes the voltage back from the anode of the actual tube, mm-hmm. and it has less voltage to amplify, and so not only the volume goes down, it distorts because of the response curve changes, and all the internal parameters change, and you can hear that. Ammunition, yeah, it's quite a beast.
Yes.
We got that in Samplitude 11, and also it was in Samplitude 10, mm-hmm. Starting in 10, I think, mm-hmm. It was 2007, and of course in Sequoia, which isn't available as a VST yet. I'm not sure about that, but that was planned as the ultimate optoelectrical compressor for drum bus, for whole instrument sections, maybe even for the master bus, for those who like that specific sound. Mm-hmm. I don't want to have the over transparency of certain devices. It definitely colors the sound, and it definitely acts its own smack. And the idea behind this thing is that I don't think it's always good to make something loud when it sounds like a white noise. Mm-hmm. Imagine a metal drummer hitting the snare drum very hard, and when you boost that in a master stage on the drum bus, you end up with something like psh, and not psh.
Right.
The smack or the transients are missing.
Absolutely.
And the way it works in the ammunition is just we take the first milliseconds, or maybe up to 50 milliseconds, or even 150, I guess it's possible in the plugin, and just let them through. We don't limit them. They are important. And afterwards, we got this saturation stage, and we got a dual band saturation stage, actually 3 stages, which transfer this transient energy into spectral energy. They saturate, they distort, of course, but you don't hear it as distortion because it's such a small amount in time. It's just a small transient that is actually not loud, but it has a wide spectrum, and the rest comes through as regular compression, and which can raise the RMS volume, and that's the whole idea behind it. And you can boost levels up pretty much like minus 10 dB without sacrificing the tone, the integrity of the tone. It doesn't sound much distorted, or it doesn't pump. And that's ideal for the drum bus, I think.
Absolutely. I've heard from many people that putting in the drum bus as well as using it for overhead compression they love. So interesting that you would mention the drum bus right off the bat on it.
Yeah, I like these sounds, like hitting the drum bus with a complex signal, but doing a bit of sidechain compression and just letting it breathe. I like this breathing sound, actually. These are all plugins that are on the market, so to say, or in our product since a couple of years. I think the Amtrack was from 2005. It's quite
5
a while.
or 6. It's been a while.
Yeah. And the Variverb saw the light of day in 2006, I think it was. And all these plugins were released as VSTs in 2007, which is quite a while, because development never stops. So we got a lot of competitors on the market and a lot of cool stuff hitting the scene every now and then. And I'm about to expand all these plugins. With the tape simulation, you can imagine that although it sounds pretty good already, there's still something possible. And with the Variverb, that you have a couple of models, we're going to expand them maybe in the future. But the Variverb, it's still a mixed bag, because it has these high quality rooms, which are all among the best, as people told me. But I'm still not satisfied. The thing is, I'm rarely satisfied with stuff that I'm doing, and that always keeps me onward. Yep. You can hear it, but when you talk with me, you can always have the notion that I'm not always satisfied with the stuff that I'm doing. That's just me. So I still think that Variverb and the Amtrack and these analog model plugins are still pretty good. Perhaps among the best that you can find, but my goal is to move onward from that.
So are you talking second edition of some of those ones, or moving on to a completely new compressor plugin type of thing that would fit into the analog modeling suite? There's
definitely going to be a new compressor anytime, but there are no precise schedules yet. I got a couple of ideas on my mind where I think I could make things much better than with the stuff that I already have on my desk. But I think the current plugins can be enhanced in certain ways. One could add oversampling to all nonlinear processes. As I found out with the Vandal, it's very important to do oversampling on everything that does distortion. That's why it perhaps sounds the way it sounds. And with the amp track, it's very important to have oversampling on the distortion process. Of course, it's an option for the ammunition. It will definitely sound much better when it is oversampled, which is currently not the case. That's what I will consider in the future. And there's stuff here and there in every corner of these plugins where I could enhance stuff to a certain degree. Vandal is always in a certain state of evolution. It's always evolving. I currently have a couple of new ideas for stomp boxes on my desk. We currently got around 19 or 20 stomps in Vandal, and I'm going to expand them. I have ideas for the reg effects in Vandal, which the regular stuff. People want to have a single element noise reduction at the end. Whenever you're doing distortion tones, you need to have a single element noise reduction. That will come. Pitch shifting, of course, and some other wacky effects that are just uncommon, maybe. There's a couple of ideas where I could think of certain stomp boxes that are not on the market in the way which I would think they could be. So I'm, as with the Vandal as a product, I'm not going to copy anything. So I'm not going to make a copy of electro-harmonics, whatever device. That's not up to me. That's not my thinking. So maybe I'm going to do a mix-up of 2 or 3 stomp boxes or whatever, and perhaps little amplifiers in the size of a stomp box. Okay. Because people are always say, okay, the amplifier is great, but there are cases where I just want a clean channel, a clean amplifier that does nothing but simply amplifying something, my guitar, and just applying a tone control to it. So all these little stomp boxes in an amp style, they are perhaps possible. So this software will be expanded very soon, and it will expand it in the long run. That's at least my idea.
All right, stuff to look forward to.
Definitely.
New toys. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed having you here.
Okay.